Hello, YouTube friends. This is Shay and 5, and this is our Saturday's Shay's storytelling video. Okay, alright, I have my list. I had 18. I don't remember how many I had last time. I don't remember if I've added anything new to it or not. But I had 18 on my list. I did random.org and generated, and the number 17 came up. There's something I don't understand about that thing. The way I think that it should not pick a number close to number 1. It should not pick a number close to the highest number. Like I had 18, it picked 17, the very next number down. I think it should get one of the numbers way in the middle, way away from those first and last numbers. What do y'all think? That's how I think it should work anyway. So, but it picked a good one, I have to say. Because number 17 was, and this is how I have it wrote down, Daddy making all the bikes. That helps me to remember what this is about. Okay. When I was a little girl and a teenager coming up, and we lived on Bowie part of the time, and then we lived on the coast part of the time. And in both places, at least I think, Mama Charlotte and Becca can correct me if I get anything wrong. It may be that he didn't actually make them on the coast, but he already had them made, had made them on Bowie before that, or seemed like even after we moved back to Bowie from the coast, he made some. I don't remember when, how, where, why, what, whatever, but anyway, all I know is my daddy made some bikes. But let me tell you how he made the bikes. My daddy was a tinker man, okay? He used to love to tinker, and he had a big old huge shop, and he had all of his junk in there. This is where I get it from. I have junk. My junk is crafting junk, okay, but it's my junk. And yeah, I get offensive if anybody calls it junk. That was not junk to my daddy, but it was to everybody else. To me, my stuff is not junk, but it is to everybody else. And we get offensive about our junk. We are the only ones that can call it that. You know. Okay. So, but anyway, you know, my daddy was a welder. He used to have a welding job years ago, I think, before I was even born. I don't even really remember him doing that, but he had not as a job and getting paid for it, but he did have a welding machine, and he welded a lot and welded things together and built and made things, and that's how he made these bikes. Bicycles is what I'm talking about, not motorbikes or anything like that, but bicycles. But he would we had a lot of bicycles for some unknown not a reason. He probably just went to junkyards and got them or something. But anyway, we ended up with a lot of bikes. And he would take bikes apart, and he would take, how do I want to say this? He had a bike here and a bike here. Of course, there was a lot of bikes, okay? And he would take parts of this bike off, parts of this bike off, and he would put these two parts together and make a bike. Or he'd take a part of this bike and put it on this bike, and a part of this bike and put it on this bike, and, you know, with all of them. And it was just, and he was building different and odd shaped bikes. So, he did several that way. So I know that he took, at one point in time, he made, you know, we have these stamps in our crafting that has, I'm just learning this really and truly through the stamps, what they're called. I think they're called tandem bikes. Is that it? which means it's a two-seater bike, and I guess a two-handlebar bike and a two-pedaled bike, but only two wheels. You know, it's the long bike. It has your front wheel, your back wheel, handlebar, seat and pedals, handlebar, seat and pedals. Got it? Okay. I think that's a tandem bike. And I only know that because we have these stamps of these little tandem bicycles, and it says let's tandem or whatever that means. I don't even really know. So anyways, I'm done, y'all. You gotta overlook me. So anyways, my daddy made one of those, and if I ain't mistaken, it seemed like I remember one time, now this was like years later, I was an older teenager, we had moved off of Bowie into town, and I think my daddy talked to my mama, which was a shocker, into going riding that bike with him. Am I right, Mama, or do you remember that? But I think so. So my daddy was on the front of the bike, how do we want to do this, and my mama was on the back of the bike on that seat with that handlebars, and they went riding together. It was so funny. Anyway, so he made one of those type bikes. Okay, now check this one out. Oh, and because he would switch, you know, the bikes, because there's different bikes, there's different styles, there's different shapes, there's different colors. So when he got through fixing a bike, it would be maybe 2 or 3 different colors, because he took parts from this and parts from that, you know, even like the pipes. So it was all these different colored pipes on this bike, you know. And it might even be a normal bike, but it was the different parts from the different things, the different handlebars, the different seats. You know, he'd take a seat off on this one to put on this one, and, you know, just all this kind of stuff. And you had the little seats, and then you had the long banana seats, they called them, and all this kind of stuff. So anyways, he was always doing all that. Okay, one bike. Now this bike I really liked. Now this is when we lived on the coast. Like I said, I don't actually remember when or where he made each kind of bike. He was always doing this. So, but I remember this bike that he had made, whether he made it on the coast or on Bowie. We were living on the coast at the time. So when we was living on the coast, I was between the ages of 7 and 11. Okay? So I was either 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11 years old. Probably was not 11 years old, because I was 11 years old when we moved from there back to Bowie. So it was probably one of these other ages. 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? May not even have been 7, because that's when we moved there from Bowie. So, 8, 9, 10. Okay? One of those ages. Alright. And I have this cousin. Don't we all? We all have cousins. Or we should. If somebody don't have a cousin, then something's wrong somewhere. Well, maybe not. Maybe they just an only child and don't have a sister and brother for their kids to have an aunt or an uncle to have kids. Anyway. Okay, I have this cousin, and me and him's always been close. He's a boy, yes. He's younger in years than me, so it was not a kissing cousin type thing. That was his older brother and me. God, I hope they don't watch my videos. Anyway, shall I say his name? His name was Fabian. Okay. Now, we lived on the coast, which was probably the only way y'all will know is, I need to say it was in a town close by Pascagoula, Mississippi. Pascagoula was the bigger town that probably y'all will all have maybe heard of. The little town we lived in was Moss Point. Or Escataba, because that was 2 little small towns, and we lived in both, I think, at one time or another. Anyways. When we first moved there in our trailer park, I think that part was considered Escataba, after we moved out of our trailer into the house. I think that was considered Moss Point. Not sure. Mama Charlotte Becky, correct me. Let me know if I'm right or wrong here. Okay. But my cousin, Fabian, his mama is my mama's sister, Aunt Jackie. They lived in Seminary, Mississippi, which was beside Collins, Mississippi, which is where Bowie Swamp is, which we had moved from there to the coast. Alright, y'all all got that straight. So, several times, at least I think anyway, it might have just been this one time, but I have always thought that several times through the years that we lived there, that Fabian came and stayed with me a while. Like, it may have even been a month long. Am I right, Mama? Was it a month long? Or was it just 1 week? Seemed like it was more than just 1 week. Was it maybe 2, 3 weeks instead of a month long? Anyway, something like that. And it would be just him. Now, Aunt Jackie would bring him, but she would leave, and Fabian would stay with us. And then there was times that I went to their house and stayed with him. Okay, so this time he came and stayed with us. And we had this bicycle that my daddy made, that he made from other different parts of the different mini bicycles. And this bike, I don't know, I had knew and seen pictures of the long tandem bikes that has the 2 wheels, your front and back wheel, your handlebars, seat and paddles, handlebars, seat and paddles, long ways like that. But this bike that my daddy had made, that I'm fixing to describe to y'all, I do not know if there was any others. It seemed to me that there wasn't, that this was the first and probably one and only. They may be, I don't know. Y'all can let me know in the comments below after y'all hear this. But this bike, I thought, man, my daddy is smart. He come up with this, and he built this all on his own, and there's no other in the world. This is how I was thinking as a kid, So, like I said, y'all let me know if there ever was. But this bike that he made, okay, alright, it had the front wheel, okay, then it had 1 set of handlebars, okay, then it had on the side a seat and pedals. Right beside it over here, a seat and pedals. Not long ways, but beside. Y'all hang on, my thing's